Great stuff. So thanks everybody for joining. Welcome to the latest in the Blueshift public demo series. My name is Joe. I am a solutions consultant for Blueshift, and that means that I help customers and prospects such as yourselves get the most out of our marketing technology platform. My background has been digital marketing and marketing technology. So I previously worked for companies like ExactTarget, which became Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and also agency side for Ogilvy and for Accenture Interactive. So I very much understand the market and have helped customers like yourselves get the most out of technology like Blueshift. Today, we're going to be learning about how Blueshift manages our artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities and how those can drive results for your business. So without further hesitation, I'm going to stop my video so that you guys can get the full attention of the screen, and we'll dive into the Blueshift platform shortly. Great, so a brief agenda for today. It's going to be some introductions, some context to what we're talking about. I'm going to spend the bulk of my time going through the Blueshift platform so that you get a feel for how we implement AI and machine learning. And then there'll be plenty of time for some Q&A at the end. What I also have in the Zoom window is a Q&A box. So if you are interested in posing a question as we go, please feel free to enter that as we go along, and we can answer those at the end of the session. So first off, it's a good idea to kind of have some context of who Blueshift are and where we come from. So what we've done, Blueshift was founded by three kind of founders. So that's the Vijay, Mehul, and Manyam. And we were basically formed in 2014. And all three of these co-founders have a history of being able to scale companies and kind of have a very keen focus on both artificial intelligence and machine learning, and solving for the problems that marketers have in terms of kind of developing and maximizing the ability to kind of get delivered. So essentially, we have patented interaction graph technology, which helps us kind of identify customer behaviors. And bear with me 1 second. Yeah, apologies. So basically, our founders have spent some time basically co-founding companies such as Cosmix and Mutado, both of which were acquired by the likes of Walmart and Groupon. And they very much kind of sit at the intersection of AI and marketing. So they are marketers by heart, and they've kind of been a part of that whole industry shift from being campaign-centric to customer-centric. So what we have developed as Blueshift has been a kind of a platform which is trusted by a number of different providers and companies across the industry. So the likes of Car Parts, Lending Tree, Zompa, Tuft & Needle, so across different industries as well. We are compliant with a number of areas of legislation, so the likes of GDPR, HIPAA in the US. We are SOC 2 compliant, and we're also validated by top analysts, the likes of Forrester, Gartner, and we're a momentum leader in the latest GG crowd for CDPs. So hopefully that gives you some assurance that we do know what we're talking about when it comes to this subject matter. But let's take a look at what we're talking about and what marketers are generally trying to achieve. So what we are basically having the ability to do is that holy grail of marketing, right? So we want to be able to pull together all of our data, whether that be in a data warehouse or from real-time events or from a product or content catalog, or from the transactions that a customer has. And essentially what we want to do is be able to pull that together into a customer profile, which then allows us to help start to predict who's likely to purchase from what we're doing, what products to recommend to that customer, when's the best time to send them, and where is the best place to engage with them. All of which in turn allows us to create a fully personalized one-to-one campaign. So obviously this is the holy grail of marketing, and in the ideal world, what we see is that data feeding back into that customer profile. What we can hopefully start to achieve is the ability to get that single customer view and get a much fuller picture of a customer as they are interacting with us. However, that quest is a fractious journey. Not everybody's there. Some of our own research, so kind of co-sponsored with Kelton Research, has found that basically only 5% of marketers are truly at that one-to-one scale. And you'll see that across the industry in different areas of research. That research also found that the major hurdles to that one-to-one level of personalization are things like poor data collection and unification. So how can AI start to help that? The ability to run complex use cases efficiently. So obviously, when you increase complexity, you have more dependencies on data and technology. The ability of your platform to actually handle that complexity is critical. And then related to that, the outdated tools, right? So legacy platforms like the kind of historical marketing automation platforms, which aren't necessarily geared towards this kind of specialization in AI. Those are the kind of platforms which don't help, right? So that's where Blueshift comes in, and we are able to support your business. That same research shows that when customers do use AI or predictive modeling tools, 98% of them generally see an improvement, and 81% of marketers are actually seeing a revenue impact of at least 30% increase, right? So when you implement AI in the right way, it works, and it's key to actually getting sustainable growth. So essentially what we're saying is that the holy grail of marketing, those who's likely to purchase, what to recommend, when to send, and where to engage, that at scale and in a massive way is only possible using AI. So at Blueshift, we believe in 3 key tenets of kind of implementing AI, right? So rather than provide customers with a black box, which we don't tell them how it works, we like to be transparent in how our models are kind of implemented. So we give you the ability to understand the inputs and outputs and then customize them yourselves if you need to. We simplify complexity. So these models are easy to set up, they're easy to train and test, but they're also complex enough to handle complex decisions, right? So we very much put the power of AI and machine learning in the hands of marketers, but it is also a robust kind of model to use, and we'll come on to show you how we do that. Finally, we also believe in activation. So we make sure that our system is able to access these models across any interaction that you're trying to do, and also activate that in the channels that you're trying to operate in. And that's a very apt quote from one of our customers made in cookware. They basically want to treat customers on a one-to-one level, and that's exactly what Blueshift does. So without further ado, let's jump into the Blueshift platform. So in CDP world, and I appreciate that some of you may not have experienced CDPs before, we have terminology such as events and catalogs, which kind of help us understand customer behavior. So events would be things that are trackable behaviors on a website, for example, or within a mobile app. So that might be viewing a particular page, it might be adding to cart, it might be any interaction that we track from a customer. And in terms of catalogs, what we're talking about there is essentially the inventory of a website, for example, the products on a website, or it could even be the content that you may be having on your website, right? So it could be blog articles or kind of knowledge. So with Blueshift, what we do is we attach a first-party cookie to when someone lands on a web page. We can track both known and unknown users and stitch that information together. And then what we get from that is our customer interaction graph. And this is essentially a single view of all of that activity condensed within Blueshift. So what we have obviously is on the left-hand side is some very straightforward and intuitive navigation. Today, we're going to take a look at our customer profile here and in the main window. We'll also take a quick look into segments and how we look at the who. So that's who we're going to target. We'll also take some time to take a look into Predictive Studio, which is where we store our predictive models. We'll also take a look into recommendations, where we can find out the kind of what to target. And then the campaigns is where we pull it all together to actually orchestrate those campaigns to a customer. So immediately when you see the customer profile, you're going to get an impression for the kind of data we're starting to collect. On the left-hand side, we've got attribute information, channel preference information, and then custom attributes, which we don't place an upper limit on, and we don't charge you kind of per user amount of data. We let you create an unlimited amount of customer attributes, and you can actually use those within your targeting, within your segments, and within any of the content of any of the campaigns that you may be orchestrating. On the right-hand side, you can see recent activity for this particular user. So all of the events we've been tracking, so things like they viewed certain items, or they've added to cart, or they've made a purchase. So all critical information on how they've interacted with that catalog. And then down the center column, we've got key information such as lifetime goals. So we could look at revenue, orders, or any event that you wanted to track at a lifetime level. We track the latest location of the event. And then what you see here is predictive scores and predictive affinities. Now, these are starting to kind of show you how embedded AI and machine learning is to the Blueshift platform. So if I start with predictive affinities, that's going to give you information such as a computed hour of engagement. So what we call engage time optimization. This is actually a lot more detailed than the standard kind of send time optimization that most platforms have, right? So predictive engage time optimization actually uses AI to examine things like campaign clicks, website browsing behavior, engagement time, engagement depth, transactions, and that's all in order to kind of determine that window of time when a user is most likely to engage with the messages that we're sending to them. So again, that can be used in the targeting for your campaigns. It can be used within a campaign orchestration. We'll show you how we do that in a moment. The categories here are affinity categories. So based on that user's behavior on the site, we're going to show you whereabouts on the site they are spending the most time, right? So what categories of product are they actually looking for? And that's going to give you key insights into, okay, what products are they interested in, but also allows us to start to use predictive elements to actually say which products are they most likely to purchase. And we can dive into that in a second as well. And then the channel of choice here, this is actually determining the best channel to engage each customer. So similarly, this is using AI to learn on which channel each individual is most likely to engage at a given moment. So it's performing a deeper analysis behind the scenes, looking at customer engagement, transaction behaviors, etc. So all of that key information is useful and usable within your platform. Here we also have predictive scores, and these, unlike other platforms which will provide you kind of a black box, this is what we define as retention. We allow you to customize these scores based on your business requirements, right? So whatever purchase intent means for your business, we can customize that score. Whatever channel engagement we want to look at, we can customize that based on any attributes that you have within Blueshift or any that you want to pull into your custom attributes. So it's incredibly flexible, incredibly transparent, and that's where we're going to dive into next. So we want to look at the who. We want to find out who we can target. So we're in segment editor here, and that will give you the ability to use any of the filters on the left-hand side here. So as you can see, there are quite a few. We can use any of the filters available to actually define the segment on the right-hand side here. And at the moment, we've got a very simple kind of activity around lifetime activity saying, okay, we want to match users that have actually visited our site more than once. So here I can actually use any of these elements. So I could look at the user attributes that we were talking about. I could look at traffic sources. I could look at those affinities that we discussed on the profile. But I could also use these predictive scores that we talked about. And those aren't just ethereal kind of scores that we have in the background. They are actually available to use within segmentation. So say, for example, I wanted to just include the people that have a high likelihood of purchase. I can save that criteria, add it to my segment definition, and get a really quick count, an easy, intuitive user interface, and it comes back in no time at all to tell me a count of those people that are most likely to engage. So that's how our segmentation editor works, and that's how you can create a segment within Blueshift. It's very quick, and segments within Blueshift are available to use in real time. So they will update in real time, customers will fall in and fall out of them. And that, again, that provides you a lot of flexibility with how you are orchestrating your campaigns. But let's take a quick look into those predictive scores. As you can see, what we give you the ability to do is create your own predictive models very easily within the user interface. If I click plus, you can see that I can do this based on a particular event happening or a particular engagement on the channel. So if I take a quick look into the purchase intent score, it's going to give me a visualization of the current score. If I hit edit, I can show you all of the different attributes that are feeding into this. So it's an event-based model. We're looking at the goal event of purchase. Similarly, I could add further events to this. So I might want to add people that have viewed whatever funnel events that I want to filter down into that goal. And then with the activity look back, we're taking a look at all of the different events that are part of the funnel, right? So looking at purchase, we might want to see people that have viewed, added to cart, liked, anything like that. I can also include advanced options to include other attributes within the model. So once those attributes are included, if I go back to the score itself, you can start to see how those attributes feed into the score. So it's completely transparent on how important those different variables are feeding into that score. And you'll see here on the right-hand side, we're transparent about when that model refreshes. At the moment, this is kind of set to refresh every 2 days. That again is completely customizable. By the minimum, we refresh it weekly, but if you need it refreshed daily or even sooner, we can customize that as well. So as you can see, the model summary starts to give you information on the deciles that you've kind of defined, but then the conversion rates at those deciles, so we can get a good confidence for how accurate the entire model is. And then for our more advanced data science users, you can have information at the bottom there, model summary. It's going to give you information such as looking at the training and validation data set, looking at the AUC, which is area under the ROC curve, and the log loss and the underlying AI model. So you've got that transparency on how the model actually works. So we've looked at the who, let's look at the what. So the recommendations. Now, again, the Blueshift recommendations engine is incredibly powerful, incredibly flexible, and it puts you in control of what you want to do. You don't have to rely on third parties. You don't have to rely on external platforms. We're giving you the ability to add recommendations content to anything or any channel, right? So in this example, we've got recommendations based on views, and the first block of content, if you like, is going to be based on the events that we're tracking, right? So at the moment, this is defined as including items from what that customer has viewed within the last 7 days, but excluding items that they purchased, which kind of makes intuitive sense, right? What you can also do is create a backfill, right? So if a customer does not meet any of those criteria, say they haven't viewed in the last 7 days, we can actually define that the customer sees a particular subset of products, right? So it might be the most recent ones added to your catalog, it might be the best-selling ones or the top viewed ones. And again, that gives you that flexibility to make sure that everybody gets a piece of content. The second block here is actually looking at related items. So what we're doing is looking at items that they viewed, but then ranking them by the next best product for them. So we're actually giving them the next best product recommendation. And again, we're using a site-wide backfill to make sure that somebody gets content. But say, for example, I wanted to start to use predictive elements of that. So what I can do is use those affinity categories that are automatically calculated for a customer to provide them with a recommendation. So if I add a block here, just on the basic default setting, you can see I've created a piece of predictive content that's going to give me the items based on those affinity categories for that customer and ranked by how they convert as a product. So again, flexibility to get very granular, very detailed with how you want to define. So let's pull that all together. So we've got the who and the what. Let's pull it into a campaign. So this is a campaign flow that we pre-created. Any campaign flow within Blueshift will evaluate from top to bottom and left to right. So we've defined our criteria for the campaign here. This is an example of an event triggered campaign. So we're looking for that purchase event. So when that happens, this triggered flow will happen. We also have the ability to run segment triggered campaigns. So you saw the segmentation editor that will give you the ability to create a very advanced segment and trigger a campaign off the back of that. So whenever anyone falls into that segment, that campaign will get triggered and away we go. So here we've looked at a purchase event. We've triggered an email off the back of that. So we've optimized this actually with our engage time optimization that we saw on the customer profile. So that's going to automatically send within 4 hours of that eligible time. So we're trying to optimize for when that customer is most likely to engage with us. We've sent the confirmation of the email. It's a summary of the order, and it can pull through the information of the product they bought, for example. But then we might want to send a post-purchase follow-up, right? And again, this can be optimized for send time, but also for affinity. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, dear customer, let's send you an email follow-up, but only if you actually have an affinity to engage on email. So we're optimizing for the actual channel that someone's going to receive the campaign on. If they don't meet these criteria, we move into the next message on this level, and we'll say, okay, send them a campaign via SMS, but only if they've got an affinity for SMS. And similarly, for our customer Wendy, we actually had push trigger as her affinity. We can actually have this message come through, and it will basically be pulled through for this particular user. So we can see the preview for the journey for this user. And again, you can see at within the content itself, we're pulling in that recommendations criteria to kind of look at those recently viewed products and push them in that message to the customer. So we're saying, making sure that we're getting the right content to the right person at the right time and on the right channel. One quick note to note, within any activity that you set up as a trigger, you can actually reference any of those conditions that we saw in the segmentation editor. So again, it's giving you massive power and flexibility on how you define those campaign elements. Finally, what I'll finish on is the ability to actually report on this information. So things like engage time optimization, we have a number of reports pre-built and canned. So we can actually say, okay, how are we performing using our predictive optimization against not using it? So that gives you a good feel for how impactful the AI elements of your campaigns are. And within dashboards, we actually have the ability to summarize that information at a very high level. So you can actually have, as in this example, a dashboard for your CMO or executive stakeholders to actually summarize everything, both based on usage of recommendations, usage of AI, but also pulling in revenue and cross-channel information. So that gives you a good feel for the overall Blueshift platform. Any questions you have as we go, like I said, please add them in the Q&A. We'll answer those right at the end. But what I wanted to show you is don't just take my word for it. These are some of the results that customers have had. So Skillshare, for example, one of our learning website customers, they used our predictive scores and predictive content to actually drive an incredible uplift in enrollment, 89% increase. They increased the engagement by 33%, and they run a very lean team, so they were able to do a lot more with less, if you like. Similarly for Zumper, who use our recommendations extensively, they generated a 384% increase in leads, 198% increase in volume, and massively increased their click rates, all by just using our AI-powered recommendations. Lending Tree, they are a keen user of our Engage Time Optimization product. They had a 35% increase in revenue and massively increased their volumes because they were able to target the right people at the right time. So obviously not wasting spend on content and campaigns that don't get opened. And then finally, carparts.com, predictive channel. They use the flexibility of our platform to actually generate incredibly personalized messages, and that's led to a near 400% increase in engagement and saved them a ton of time in development and using external kind of reliance on data teams and so forth. So don't take my word for it. All of these case studies are available on the Blueshift website. We also have recently released our Ultimate Guide to AI Marketing, which I'd encourage you all to download. It's completely free and gives you a good summary of everything we've seen today and discussed. And if you need to, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at hello@blueshift.com. Similarly, my name is Jolyon Hunter, JOLYN.hunter@getblueshift.com. Feel free to email me. I'd love to take you guys through a custom demo at some point. Thank you for your time. If you don't have any questions, I can, oh, there is just one question coming in. So somebody has asked, which AI algorithms do you use? So the answer is we actually use ensembles of boosted trees and logistic regression algorithms. That's to train binary classifiers for the model building part. And then we use autoencoders, PCA, and matrix factorization for feature representation and selection. So if you need more information on that, that's available at help.blueshift.com, and that's our documentation portal where you'll find information about all of the features and functionality we discussed today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Appreciate you spending time this afternoon with us. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a good day.